Hello, I'm Suzanne Smith. Surrounded by Thunder, the story of Daryl Lone and the Rocket Men is the true story of Florida's space race from the point of view of one of the engineers. It took home the gold in general nonfiction at the 2013 Florida Book Awards. The author Tom Williams joins us here to talk about the book and the history. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Okay, my first question is, how did you get interested in this topic?
I was always interested in the space race. When I was a little boy, I was watching Alan Shepard and the rockets in Florida, and I was just glued to the television set. And my dad would come home one day and he says, "Son, don't you know that a lot of that stuff's made by Chrysler in Detroit?" And I'm thinking, oh, my dad, he's crazy. He has no idea what he's talking about. Turns out Daryl, who the story's about, Daryl Lone, he worked at Chrysler developing the Redstone rocket. And it was just an amazing 12 years between when the Russians launched Sputnik and Americans landed on the moon. It was the most exciting time ever. And when you think about it, the Russians polished Sputnik so it would shine, and you could see it coming over every 90 minutes. So everybody in America was looking at that going, oh no, we could never win the Third World War against the Russians, so America had to respond. And the response was the creative conquest of space. And it was just the most amazing thing that ever happened. And the book reads like a novel. Anybody that's thinking, oh, this is a textbook about, rockets. No, this is a story. It's a narrative. It tells, like, in real life, in real time, what happened to these guys and how they picked the astronauts and how these guys were brave enough to sit on top of these rockets that were 95% fuel. The weight of these things was 95% fuel. The three before John Glenn, all the Atlas ballistic missiles, they all blew up before he had enough guts to climb on board and do that. And it chronicles all of those wonderful stories and the steps between America's first fledgling attempts to make it into space and then ultimately walking on the moon.
Well, how did you find Daryl and find his story?
My first book, Lost and Found, was published, and it's an exciting book about a Texas oil company that launches a satellite to look for oil fields. So it had a little space age to it. And Daryl contacted me and said, I want you to write my dad's life story. He was one of the top engineers at NASA. And suddenly, I just went back to my childhood, sitting in front of the television, watching, these launches about every other month. It was so exciting. And I was like, oh, that's it. I'm going to do that. So I met Daryl, and we started talking. And I realized that Daryl, how close, with these rockets, how close were some of them? And he's like, oh, we'd pile up sand with a bulldozer in White Sands, New Mexico. We'd hide behind it, watch them launch, 70 feet away. And the book, Surrounded by Thunder, was from the sound of the rocket engine. When it goes off and you're that close, you don't know if it's this all-encompassing vibration or if it's, thunder just all around you. So,
what was the most interesting story Daryl told you?
There's just so many. It's just one chapter after the other. It's like, I don't even know. I don't think I could pick one that's so exciting. Well, I think like Gemini 7, when Frank Borman and Jim Lovell went up in Gemini 7, and that would be like us sitting together in a little capsule, like the front seat of a sports car, for 2 weeks to prove that a trip to the moon was feasible. And it's the first time when they proved that one spacecraft could dock with another one.
Okay.
And so 2 Gemini missions were up at the same time, Wallace Schirra and Tom Stafford in Gemini 6, and they got to where they were 1 foot apart. They could steer the spacecraft 1 foot apart from each other. And it was total control, and it loved it. They flew like jet fighters in space. And these guys were the first ones to really become space pilots. The Russians could launch something and fly past each other like 2 guns or 2 bullets out of a gun, but they couldn't control it. Whereas the guys at McDonnell in St. Louis, they designed that beautiful spacecraft, and it was just awesome. So I think that was one of them. And also Apollo 8, when Jim Lovell and Frank Borman again, it was the first trip to the moon and the first Americans to ever ride a Saturn V, which burned 15 tons of liquid oxygen and jet fuel a second.
Wow.
Nothing like it.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on your award.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Florida Book Awards are presented annually to recognize, honor, and celebrate the best Florida literature. The program is coordinated by the Florida State University Libraries and co-sponsored by these groups that promote books by and for all Floridians.